Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing HFY stories. Hit the bell icon to get notified about our latest uploads. It was a day like any other, or so I thought. I had never seen anything like her before. She stood in front of me, bathed in the dim glow of the streetlights, as if she were a creature from a dream, a vivid hallucination brought on by too much caffeine or lack of sleep. Her pale skin shimmered under the faint light, and her eyes, redder than the most intense setting sun, locked onto mine with an intensity that made my heart race for reasons I didn't fully understand. I was on my usual late-night walk, trying to clear my mind after a particularly frustrating day at the lab. My work on bioengineering was tedious, but it paid the bills. As I rounded the corner of a narrow alley, I saw her, standing there as though she had been waiting for me. Her form was elegant, but there was a primal energy about her that sent a wave of unease through me. I knew I should have turned back, but curiosity got the better of me. Her lips curled into a smile, but it wasn't one of warmth. No, it was the kind of smile that made your skin crawl, the kind that promised both danger and something more. Before I could ask who she was or what she wanted, she spoke. "You're human," she said, her voice smooth, lilting, almost melodic. "I've been searching for you." I froze, my mind racing. Searching for me? I had no idea who this woman was. There were no signs of any alien invasions or galactic news stories about rogue vampires, at least not that I knew of. And yet, there she stood, her presence unlike anything I had ever encountered. It was like she didn't belong here, as if her very existence was out of place. "I'm sorry, but you must be mistaken," I stammered, stepping back slowly. "I don't know who you are." Her expression softened, a strange sadness replacing the eerie intensity. "You wouldn't understand. I've been in love with you for a long time." My heart skipped a beat. In love with me? I barely knew the woman. I swallowed hard, unsure of what to say or even how to respond. This had to be some kind of joke, right? She continued, "I am not from here. I'm not human. And I am not just any alien." Her eyes gleamed with an almost predatory glint. "I am a vampire. A creature of darkness, much like the legends you humans have told about." The word struck me like a punch to the gut. Vampire? I thought. This couldn't be real. It had to be some bizarre performance art or an elaborate prank. Yet the look in her eyes, the sheer certainty of her tone, made it all feel too real. Before I could respond, she took a step forward. "I'm a member of the Nixery, a species that traverses the stars in search of souls to consume. But we don't feed in the traditional sense. Our hunger is different. We crave the essence of a species, the essence of something pure." I stared at her, blinking in disbelief. "You're telling me you're some sort of space vampire?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, but there's more. Much more." The air around us felt thicker now, like a dense fog had settled over everything. My mind was struggling to process what she was saying, but something told me that her words held a weight far beyond any sci-fi film I'd ever seen. She stepped closer, her movements so graceful, almost inhumanly so. I wanted to back away again, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from her. "I know it sounds impossible, but the truth is stranger than any fiction you've ever read. We, the Nixery, have been watching your kind for centuries, and we've come to learn something incredible. Something I can no longer keep to myself." At this point I couldn't help but ask, "Why me? Why have you been searching for me?" Her gaze softened even more, if that was possible. It almost felt like she was studying me, examining my very soul. "Because, John, you are different. Your biology, your genes, they are special." She hesitated, as though she was treading on dangerous ground. "You are one of the few humans who possess an ancient, latent gene that no one, not even our kind, fully understands." I took a step back, still processing her words. "You're saying my genes are special? Oh, what does that even mean?" Her smile returned, but it was no longer the sinister grin of a predator. It was softer, almost fond. "It means you are a key to something far larger than you could ever imagine. Something that could change everything, both for your species and for mine." I could feel my pulse quicken. The air between us was crackling with energy, and I could almost taste the tension in the air. "What are you talking about? What do you want from me?" Her eyes, now glowing faintly, fixed on mine once again. I want you to understand, John. I am in love with you because of what you represent. Your kind, your species, you have an extraordinary potential that has remained dormant for so long. And I, along with others of my kind, have been waiting for someone like you to awaken it. I was completely lost now. None of this made sense, but something deep within me told me there was truth in her words, even if they sounded impossible. Awaken what? She took a deep breath, almost as if she was preparing to share a long-held secret. Your species is about to evolve, John. But this evolution isn't natural. It's something we Nixari have been trying to influence for centuries. Your genes are the missing link. You are the key to awakening that potential, to transcending the limitations of your kind. I stood there frozen. The weight of her words hung in the air, and my mind raced with 1,000 questions I couldn't form fast enough. What did this mean for humanity? What did this mean for me? Her eyes never left mine, and I could sense she was waiting for my response. Waiting for me to understand. Finally, I managed to speak, though my voice was shaky. And what happens when this evolution happens? What happens to me? Her smile was almost wistful. That, John, is a question even I do not have the answer to. But I'm here to help you find it. And I'm in love with you because I believe you are the one who can unlock this future. As I stood there, my heart pounding in my chest, I realized I wasn't just facing an alien, I was facing a future I couldn't yet understand, but one that might change everything. And it all began with her. I stood there, my mind a whirlwind of confusion. The woman, no, the Nixari, had just told me I was the key to something unimaginable. She was in love with me not because of who I was, but because of something I didn't even understand about myself. I wanted to run, to escape from this bizarre moment, but my legs refused to move. Something kept me rooted to the spot, as if the very air around us had become thick with a force I couldn't resist. Her gaze softened, sensing my hesitation. I know it's a lot to take in, she said, her voice now laced with a strange gentleness. But you must understand, John. Everything you've ever known is about to change. And it's not just about you, it's about your people. Humanity's future is at a crossroads, and your genes hold the answer. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. How could I respond to something like that? How could I wrap my mind around the notion that my genes were somehow special enough to hold the key to an evolutionary leap? An evolution influenced by an alien race that had been observing humans for centuries? The woman stepped closer, her pale skin almost glowing under the dim light of the street. She was mesmerizing, but it wasn't just her beauty. There was an intensity to her presence, a magnetism I couldn't explain. It was as if every fiber of my being was drawn to her, yet I was terrified of what that could mean. My heart pounded in my chest, not just from fear, but from an overwhelming sense of inevitability. I can take you to the place where all of this begins, she said, her voice low, almost hypnotic. But first you must trust me, John. You must trust that everything I've told you is the truth. The words hung in the air like a heavy fog, and for the first time in my life, I felt like I was standing on the edge of something monumental, something far beyond the mundane reality I had always known. I had to make a choice. Walk away and pretend none of this had ever happened, or follow this woman, this alien, into the unknown, into a future that might be my destiny. I swallowed hard. Where do you want to take me? Her smile widened, and for the first time, I saw the faintest trace of relief in her eyes. It's not a place you can find on your own. It's hidden in a location that even your governments are unaware of. We Nixari have been protecting it for centuries, waiting for the right moment to reveal it to someone like you. I thought about it for a moment. I had no idea what she was talking about, but there was something about her certainty, that made me feel like I was standing at the precipice of something far bigger than myself. She wasn't just asking me to follow her, she was asking me to step into a new reality, one that was so far removed from anything I could have ever imagined. Was I ready to take that leap? Why me? I asked, my voice cracking slightly. Why did you pick me? The Nixari took a deep breath, her red eyes flickering as she regarded me. It wasn't a choice, John. It's fate. You carry the latent genetic traits that will enable you to unlock what has been dormant within humanity for millennia. I've seen the signs. I felt the shift in your genetic signature, and I knew you were the one. You may not believe me now, but you will soon enough. I wanted to protest, to tell her she was crazy, but deep down, I knew there was truth in what she said. My whole life I had felt like something was missing. I wasn't like everyone else. There was always a sense that I was destined for something greater, but I never knew what it was. Now here she was, telling me that something deep inside of me was about to awaken, something that had been hidden from the world for centuries. I'll come with you, I said before I could stop myself. But if this is some kind of trick, if you're lying to me, I won't hesitate to run. She smiled again, that same hauntingly beautiful smile. I would never lie to you, John. I would never ask you to do anything you weren't ready for. But know this, the moment you step into the truth, there's no going back. Your world, your life will never be the same. I nodded slowly, the weight of her words settling into my chest. For better or worse, I had already made my decision. The Nixery turned and started walking away, her movements graceful, almost ethereal. I hesitated for a moment, but then I followed her, my feet carrying me with a mix of fear and excitement. She led me down narrow streets, through alleys I had never noticed before, and into areas of the city that felt strangely unfamiliar. As we walked, she spoke, her voice weaving a tapestry of knowledge and ancient history that left me awestruck. The Nixery have watched over humanity for centuries, she explained. We've observed your wars, your growth, your evolution. But we've always stayed in the shadows, never interfering. Until now. Why interfere now? I asked, still struggling to understand why they hadn't done something sooner, why they had waited until now. There are forces at play, she said, her tone darkening. Ones that will stop at nothing to prevent the awakening of humanity's true potential. They know what you are capable of, John. They know what you represent and they fear it. Who? I asked, my curiosity piqued. Who would want to stop this? The same forces that have kept humanity divided, kept you blind to your true power. I'm not the only one who has fallen in love with you, John. Others have seen what you can become, what you could lead humanity to. But not all of them have your best interests at heart. I felt a shiver run down my spine. There was more to this than I had imagined. The world I thought I knew was only a tiny fraction of a much larger, more dangerous reality. And it seemed that I was now caught in the middle of it. We reached a building at the edge of the city, a place I had never seen before. It looked like an old warehouse, abandoned and weathered, but something about it felt different. There was an energy here, a pulse that I could almost feel under my skin. The Nixery stopped in front of the door, turning to face me. Inside is where it all begins, she said, her red eyes gleaming. Are you ready, John? I nodded, my heart racing, knowing that once I stepped through that door, there would be no turning back. Whatever awaited me on the other side, it was something I had to face. With a deep breath, I followed her inside. The door creaked open, its rusted hinges groaning in protest. I stepped inside, the air colder than I expected, thick with the scent of dust and age. The building was far larger on the inside than it appeared from the outside, a sprawling, cavernous space filled with dark shadows and dimly lit corners. Strange symbols, unfamiliar and alien in nature, were etched into the walls, glowing faintly with an eerie, otherworldly light. I looked at the Nixery as she led me deeper into the structure, her movements fluid and confident, like someone who had been here 1,000 times before. What is this place? I asked, my voice barely a whisper in the silence. This is where it all began, she replied, her voice low and filled with reverence. Where the Nixery have watched over humanity's evolution for centuries. It's a sanctuary, a place hidden from the eyes of your kind, where we can guard the secrets that have shaped your world. We walked further into the building, passing rows of ancient-looking machines and devices, many of which seemed to pulse with a strange energy as though they were alive. The air was thick with the sense of something old and powerful. It felt like stepping into the heart of a forgotten myth, where the lines between reality and fantasy blurred. I couldn't help but feel like I was walking into a story I didn't yet understand, and each step I took seemed to reveal more mysteries. The further we went, the more surreal everything became. It was like being inside the belly of some vast, ancient creature, its very bones radiating with secrets I wasn't ready to hear. We've kept humanity safe for so long, the Nixery said, glancing over her shoulder at me. Not by directly intervening, but by protecting the essence of what makes you human, what makes you unique among the stars. We've been waiting for someone like you to emerge, someone who can unlock the next stage of your species' evolution. But why now? I asked, still struggling to process what she was telling me. Why me? Why not someone else? She paused before answering, her expression unreadable. Because your genetic signature is unlike anything we've ever seen. Not just a mutation. It's something far more profound. Your DNA carries the latent potential to trigger a transformation, one that can either save or doom humanity. My heart skipped a beat. What do you mean, save or doom? There are other forces at play, she said, her voice tinged with a hint of sadness. Others who know what you are capable of and who will stop at nothing to prevent it from happening. The shift you represent is not just a change in your biology, but in the very nature of what it means to be human. And that scares them. I felt a chill run through me. Who are they? What do they want with me? The other factions, she began, her tone growing darker, are factions within our own species. Not all of us believe that humans should evolve. There are some among us who believe that humanity should remain as it is, flawed, divided, weak. They don't want to see your kind ascend because they know it will shift the balance of power in the galaxy. I stopped dead in my tracks. You mean, this is about power? About control? She turned to face me fully, her eyes locking onto mine. Yes. And no. It's not just about control. It's about the fundamental essence of existence. The Nixery have been part of the Galactic Order for millennia, watching as species rise and fall. But we have never encountered a species like yours. Humans have a unique potential. A potential that, if unlocked, could alter the balance of everything. And that scares those who hold power. I took a deep breath, the weight of her words sinking in. It was hard to wrap my mind around the idea that my genetic code, something I had never thought twice about, was now the center of a galactic struggle. I had always felt different, like there was more to me than I could understand, but I never imagined it could have such immense consequences. But why me? I asked again. Why am I the one who can unlock this potential? She smiled softly, her eyes gleaming with something I couldn't quite place. Because, John, you are the catalyst. The evolution you represent is something that cannot be triggered by a single individual alone. It requires the combined essence of many, but you have the spark. Your genes carry the necessary sequence to activate the change. I shook my head, trying to make sense of it all. So, you're saying that I'm somehow special, chosen to lead humanity into some kind of evolution? Not just chosen, she corrected, her voice growing more intense. You are a descendant of an ancient line of humans who were selected long before you were born. The Nixery have been monitoring these bloodlines for generations, ensuring that the right individual would emerge when the time was right. And that individual is you? I took a step back, my mind reeling. This was too much to process. I had always felt that I was destined for something, but to think that it was all planned, that my bloodline had been chosen by alien forces long before I was born, was almost too overwhelming to accept. You're saying my family was part of this? I asked, my voice barely audible. Yes, she replied. You come from a line that has always been connected to the Nixery. We've guided your ancestors, watched over them, ensuring that the right genetic markers were passed down. Your bloodline has always carried the key to this evolution. You just didn't know it? A cold sweat began to form on the back of my neck. My mind was swimming in a sea of questions, each more impossible than the last. How could I be part of something so much larger than myself? And why hadn't I known about it before? Then what happens now? I asked, my voice hoarse. What do I do with all of this? The Nixery turned to face a large, circular chamber at the far end of the building, her expression unreadable. The first step is awakening the power within you. But that can only happen here in this place. We've built a sanctuary, a device that will trigger the transformation when the time is right. Transformation? I repeated. What kind of transformation? She hesitated, her eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't place. Sadness, perhaps? The transformation that will unlock humanity's true potential. The evolution that will free your species from the shackles of your current limitations. I felt a wave of dizziness wash over me. My hands trembled and I could barely keep up with the flood of information she was giving me. But I knew one thing for certain: I was no longer just a human. Whatever was happening now, whatever path I had been thrust onto, it was not something I could walk back from. And as much as I feared what might come next, a part of me, deep inside, knew that I had no choice but to move forward. I took a steadying breath and nodded. All right. Let's do it. The Nixery gave a slow, knowing smile, and with a motion of her hand, she beckoned me toward the chamber. This is where your true journey begins, John. Welcome to the future. And with that, I stepped forward into the unknown. The chamber was unlike anything I had ever seen. Its walls were made of a smooth, reflective material that seemed to pulse with a subtle, rhythmic energy, like the beating of a heart. In the center of the room stood a massive pedestal, bathed in a soft, ethereal light. Upon it rested what could only be described as a sphere, a perfectly spherical object that seemed to hum with a life of its own. The sphere radiated an energy so intense, it felt like it was pulling at me, beckoning me to step closer, to touch it. I couldn't help but feel an odd sense of familiarity with it, as though I had seen it before in some distant dream. The Nixery stopped beside me, her expression serious, almost solemn. This is the core, she said softly, her voice reverberating slightly in the vast room. The source of the transformation. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my racing heart. The transformation, the evolution. You mean this is the device that's going to change me? She nodded, her red eyes gleaming with a mixture of anticipation and caution. It's not just you, John. This will trigger the beginning of humanity's shift. But first, you must undergo the process yourself. Only then will humanity's path forward be revealed. I looked from the sphere to her, still trying to grasp the enormity of what was happening. I had always thought of evolution as a slow, natural process, something that happened over millennia. But what she was telling me, what she was about to make me do, was something far beyond any natural progression. It was a leap, a quantum shift in human potential, a process that had never been attempted before. And I, of all people, was the one chosen to trigger it. I took a deep breath. What do I need to do? She stepped closer, her presence almost overwhelming in its intensity. You must make contact with the sphere. When you do, the transformation will begin. But be warned, John, the process is not without risk. It's a trial, one that will test every part of you. Mentally, physically, and spiritually. I looked at the sphere again, the hum of energy almost vibrating in my bones. It was tempting, almost irresistible, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was stepping into something far more dangerous than I could comprehend. What happens if I fail? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She hesitated before answering. If you fail, the process will not be completed, and the consequences could be catastrophic. For you and for all of humanity. The forces that oppose us will use your failure as a reason to keep your species locked in its current state forever. A cold shiver ran down my spine. I had never felt the weight of the world so acutely. It was no longer just about me. It was about everyone, every human being on this planet. If I failed, everything I had ever known would remain trapped in the past, frozen in a state of ignorance, unable to evolve into something greater. But if I succeeded, it was as if I could unlock the future itself. Humanity could finally break free of the limitations that had held it back for centuries. The potential was too great to ignore, too powerful to leave untapped. All right, I said, my voice trembling slightly but firm. I'm ready. The Nixery gave me a long, measuring look as though weighing my resolve. Then, with a single, graceful motion, she reached out and touched the sphere. Instantly, the hum of energy intensified, vibrating through the floor and into my bones. I watched in awe as the sphere seemed to respond to her touch, its surface rippling like liquid. Touch it, she urged, her voice steady despite the growing intensity of the energy in the room. Now is the time. I took a tentative step forward. The sphere seemed to call to me, urging me to make contact. I raised my hand, my palm trembling as it neared the surface. For a moment I hesitated, doubt crept in. What if this was a mistake? What if I wasn't ready? But then I remembered everything the Nixery had told me. The transformation wasn't just for me, it was for all of humanity. This was bigger than fear. This was the future. With a deep breath, I placed my hand on the sphere. The moment I made contact, a shockwave of energy surged through me. It was as if the very fabric of reality had shifted, the air thickening around me, pressing in from all sides. I felt a burning warmth flood through my veins, the energy coursing through me like fire. My vision blurred, and for a moment I thought I might collapse. But the pain was not like any pain I had ever experienced. It was primal, intense, but somehow necessary. I felt the stirrings of something deep within me, something ancient and powerful awakening in my very bones. Then I heard her voice, but it was distant, as if coming from a faraway place. "Hold on, John. Don't let go. The process has begun. You must remain conscious. Stay focused." The energy continued to build inside me, and I felt myself being pulled in every direction at once. My body seemed to stretch and contract like it was being remade from the inside out. The world around me began to dissolve, and I was plunged into a state of pure sensation. Color, sound, and light flashing around me, each more intense than the last. Memories, flooding memories, rushed into my mind. They were not my own. They were the memories of countless lives, of humanity's ancestors, of the Nixery who had watched over them. I saw glimpses of ancient civilizations, of distant stars, of battles fought between species I couldn't even comprehend. I saw the rise and fall of entire worlds, the ebb and flow of time itself. I could feel the weight of eons pressing on me, and I understood, no, I felt, the truth of it all. This was not just an evolution. This was a reawakening. Humanity had always carried this potential, buried deep within its genetic code, waiting for the right moment, the right person to unlock it. And now I was the key. The pain intensified, and for a moment I thought I might lose myself in the flood of sensations. But I kept my focus, holding on to the understanding that this was bigger than me. I had to see it through. And then, just as suddenly as it had started, the energy began to dissipate. The room came back into focus, and I found myself standing, my hands still resting on the sphere. But I felt different, changed. My senses were sharper, more attuned to the world around me. I could feel the heartbeat of the planet beneath my feet, the pulse of life flowing through everything. And I could hear the Nixery's voice, clear and sharp, as if she were standing right beside me. "You've done it," she said softly. "The process is complete. You are no longer just human. You are something more." I turned to her, my breath coming in shallow gasps, and in that moment, I knew that everything had changed. For me. For humanity. For the future. The road ahead was uncertain, but I could already feel the weight of destiny pressing down on me. The transformation had begun. The room felt different now. The air, once thick with the hum of the sphere, had calmed, but the energy remained, swirling around me like a force I could feel but not touch. I stood still for a moment, trying to make sense of what had just happened, what I had just undergone. My body felt different, stronger, lighter, but there was something more, something I couldn't quite put into words. The Nixery stood beside me, her red eyes scanning me with an intensity that was both comforting and unnerving. There was no expression of surprise or awe on her face, only a quiet certainty. She had known this would happen. She had known that I was the one who could trigger this change, but I was still reeling from the magnitude of it all. My mind raced as I tried to process everything. What did I just do? I asked, my voice a bit shaky as I looked at my hands, half expecting them to look different somehow. But they were still mine, familiar yet unfamiliar. There was a strange undercurrent to my being now, an electricity running just beneath my skin. "You've unlocked it," she replied simply, her voice calm but carrying a weight of its own. "The shift. You are no longer just human. Your potential has been awakened. But understand, John, this change is not without its consequences." The words hit me like a slap to the face. "Consequences?" I echoed, my voice barely audible. "What do you mean?" I thought this was supposed to be the beginning of something great." She nodded slowly, her eyes softening. "It is. But every transformation carries its price. You've tapped into something ancient, something powerful. And with that comes responsibility, danger, and sacrifice." I felt a cold wave of fear wash over me. "Sacrifice?" I repeated, my voice trembling. What kind of sacrifice? The Nixery stepped closer, her presence soothing yet unsettling. You have triggered the first step in humanity's evolution, John. The power that lies dormant in your genes is far greater than anything your species has ever known. But it cannot be controlled easily. The forces that oppose this change will stop at nothing to prevent it. They will come for you. I swallowed hard, my mind racing. What forces? You said there were factions who didn't want this to happen. Who are they? And why would they want to stop us from evolving? They are part of an ancient order that exists beyond the reach of your governments, beyond the borders of your world. They are the ones who have kept humanity in a state of stagnation, making sure you never realize your true potential. They are afraid of what will happen if humanity breaks free of its limitations. And now they know that you, John, are the catalyst. You are the one who can lead humanity into a new era, or destroy it before it ever has a chance. The weight of her words settled heavily on my chest. For the first time, I began to fully understand the stakes of what I had done. This wasn't just about me or my future. It was about the future of every person on this planet. And there were those powerful, unseen forces that would stop at nothing to prevent it. What can we do? I asked, my voice filled with urgency. How can we stop them? How can I protect myself, protect everyone? She hesitated, her gaze shifting toward the sphere that still pulsed softly in the center of the room. There is little time, John. The forces that oppose you are already aware of your awakening. They will try to track you down, to neutralize you before you can fully understand what you've become. The transformation you've undergone is not just a physical one. Your mind, your consciousness has expanded, tapped into the collective potential of humanity. You can feel it, can't you? The connection, the power that courses through everything around you? I nodded, my eyes wide with understanding. It was like a current of energy flowing beneath my skin, a deeper awareness of everything I had ever known. The world felt different, more vivid, more alive. I could sense things I couldn't explain, hear whispers that seemed to come from the air itself. It was like I could see the threads that connected everything, every person, every life. The vastness of it was both exhilarating and overwhelming. But there was something else, a deep, gnawing fear. I could sense the threat looming, waiting for me to slip up, to reveal my newfound power. And I knew that the enemies the Nixery had spoken of would come. They would stop at nothing to take it from me, to erase the change before it could take root. So what now? I asked, my voice firm despite the fear that clung to my words. What do I do? How do I learn to control this? The Nixery's expression was unreadable, but her eyes held a flicker of something, an emotion I couldn't quite place. You must learn, John. You must understand the full extent of what you've unlocked. You have only just begun to scratch the surface of your potential. But to do that, you need time. You need to be trained, to hone your abilities. I looked at her, confusion clouding my thoughts. Trained? By you? She nodded. Yes. But it will not be easy. The process of fully awakening your power will take time, effort, and sacrifice. There will be moments when you will feel as though you're losing yourself, when the weight of the transformation will threaten to crush you. But you must hold on. The future of humanity depends on your strength. I clenched my fists, determination surging through me. I couldn't turn back. Not now. Not after everything I had learned, everything I had felt. I had made a choice, and that choice came with consequences. But it also came with an opportunity to change the world, to lead humanity into something greater. I'm ready, I said, my voice steady. Whatever it takes. The Nixery's eyes softened, a flicker of approval passing through them. Good. But understand this, John. The path you've chosen is not an easy one. The enemies you will face are ruthless, and the cost of failure will be more than you can bear. There are times when you will question whether it was worth it. But I will be with you. I will help you navigate the challenges ahead. Together, we can ensure that humanity fulfills its destiny. I nodded, my mind made up. There was no turning back. I had crossed a line, and now there was only forward. As we began to leave the chamber, I felt a strange sense of resolve settle within me. I had awakened something within myself, something that could change everything. But I also knew that awakening had consequences. I wasn't just a man anymore. I was something more, something that could alter the course of humanity's future. But that power came at a price. And I wasn't sure I was ready to pay it. The days that followed were a blur of training, revelation, and tension. I was no longer the same person I had been before that fateful moment in the chamber. I could feel it in every part of me, in the way the world seemed to pulse with a deeper rhythm, in the way I could sense the hidden connections between every living thing. But with each passing day, I also felt the weight of the transformation pressing down on me, pulling me in multiple directions. The Nixery had kept me secluded, taking me through a series of mental and physical exercises designed to help me understand and control the power that now flowed through my veins. She explained that the transformation was not just a gift, it was a tool, a weapon, and I had to learn to wield it carefully. I spent hours meditating, focusing, trying to reach into the depths of my consciousness, where the raw energy of humanity's potential lay dormant. The more I tapped into it, the more I understood just how vast and uncontrollable it was. But as much as I tried to master it, there were moments when it felt like the power was slipping away from me, like I was losing my grip on who I was. It was as if the deeper I reached, the further I strayed from my own humanity. I could feel my thoughts becoming more fragmented, my emotions more distant, as though I was caught between two worlds, the human world I had always known and the strange alien force that had now become a part of me. Focus, the Nixery would say whenever she saw me falter. The power you feel is a reflection of all humanity's potential. But it is not you. You are still John. Do not lose yourself. But it was hard. Harder than I ever could have imagined. One evening, after a particularly exhausting training session, I stood at the edge of the hidden sanctuary, gazing out over the vast expanse of the landscape. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the alien terrain, but my thoughts were far from peaceful. Every day felt like a battle, between the person I had been and the force I was becoming. The tension inside me was suffocating, and I couldn't help but wonder if I had made the right choice. Was it possible to control this power? To keep my humanity intact? A soft rustle behind me broke my reverie, and I turned to see the Nixery approaching. Her face was unreadable, but her presence seemed to calm the storm inside me, even if just for a moment. "You look troubled," she said, her voice as steady as always. I nodded slowly, feeling the weight of the words on my tongue. "I don't know how to do this. I feel like I'm losing myself. Like I'm being torn between two worlds, two versions of myself. One is the man I used to be, and the other is something else. Something alien." She stepped closer, her eyes searching mine. "The transformation is not easy, John. It's a conflict every individual who undergoes it faces. But remember, you were chosen for this. You are the catalyst. You have the power to change not just yourself, but humanity itself. And with that power comes a burden. A burden you must learn to carry." I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "But what if I can't carry it? What if I can't control it?" Her gaze softened, and for the first time, I saw something close to empathy in her eyes. "Then you will learn. But you will not do it alone. I am here. And others will come to help you when the time is right. The factions who seek to stop you, those who fear what you represent, will do everything in their power to destroy you. You must be ready." I felt a cold shiver run down my spine. "How do you know I'll be ready? How do you know I'll make it through?" She stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "I know because I've seen it before. Not in you, but in others like you. There are those who have stood where you stand now. And some of them failed. But others became something greater than they could have ever imagined. You have that same potential." I turned away from her, my eyes tracing the horizon. "But what if I'm not strong enough? What if the power consumes me before I can use it for good?" "You are not alone," she repeated, her voice firm. "Trust yourself. Trust the power within you. And when the time comes, you will know what to do." I didn't answer. The truth was, I didn't know if I could trust myself anymore. I was afraid of what I was becoming. Afraid that the very power I had unlocked might tear me apart, leave me broken and unrecognizable. I had no idea what the future held, and the weight of it all was suffocating. But the Nixery was right about one thing: I couldn't do this alone. The thought of facing the enemies who sought to stop this evolution, the ones who would see humanity remain stagnant, bound to its old ways, terrified me. But it was no longer just about me. It was about every human being on this planet. It was about our future, and I was the one who had to fight for it. The next few days passed in a haze of intensity. The training was grueling, and the internal struggle within me only grew stronger. But as I pushed myself, I began to feel a shift. Something inside me clicked, and I felt more connected to the power that coursed through my veins. The raw energy that had once felt chaotic and uncontrollable began to feel more like a tool, something I could harness if I focused hard enough. But even as I made progress, the shadows of doubt still lingered in the back of my mind. I was not the man I had once been. The transformation had taken something from me, something intangible, something that I couldn't quite define. And I feared that, one day, I would lose everything that made me human. It was during one of these moments of doubt, when I was deep in meditation, that the Nixery approached me again. This time, there was urgency in her step, a tension in the air that I could feel before she spoke. "They're here," she said, her voice low. "The forces that oppose us. They found us." I stood up quickly, my heart racing. "What do we do? How long do we have?" "They will not stop until you are destroyed," she said grimly. "We must leave now." I felt a surge of panic rise in my chest. My training wasn't complete. I wasn't ready. I could feel it. This wasn't just a fight for my survival. It was a fight for humanity's future. And I wasn't sure if I could win. But there was no time for second-guessing. The world I had known, the world I had hoped to change, was under threat. And now I had no choice but to face it head-on. The Nixery turned, and I followed her, my heart heavy with the weight of what was to come. There was no turning back now. I had unlocked something beyond myself, and now I had to face the consequences of that choice. The war for humanity's future was just beginning. The urgency in the Nixery's voice made every muscle in my body tighten. "We don't have much time," she said, glancing over her shoulder as if she could already feel the approach of the enemy she spoke of. I had never seen her so tense before. Her normally calm demeanor had cracked, and for the first time, I felt like the weight of the universe was truly upon us. I swallowed hard, adrenaline flooding my system. "How do we fight them? How do I even know what to do?" "Your power is not just for fighting," she replied, her voice steady, though a trace of concern flickered in her eyes. "It's a force of change, of awakening. But until you've learned to control it fully, using it recklessly will only bring destruction. We need to be strategic. They have been watching us for too long. They know what you are now." I tried to steady my breathing, to push back the fear that gnawed at the edges of my mind. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't ready to face a war, especially not against something as alien as the forces the Nixery had described. The transformation I had undergone had given me power, but I still felt like I was grasping at shadows, trying to understand what I had become. We moved swiftly through the hidden sanctuary, the place that had once felt like a refuge now pulsing with a sense of danger. The walls that had once seemed so calm now seemed oppressive, closing in on me as if they were alive. The humming energy in the air only intensified as we walked, almost as though the very environment was preparing for the coming conflict. "Where are we going?" I asked, trying to push the rising panic down. "What's the plan?" "The plan is simple," the Nixery said, her pace unbroken. "We need to relocate to a more secure location, one that will give us time to prepare. You cannot afford to face them unprepared." We reached a large, reinforced door at the far end of the sanctuary, and the Nixery placed her hand on the surface. A soft glow illuminated the markings around the door, and it slid open with a low hiss. Beyond it was a narrow, dimly lit passageway, leading deeper into the heart of the complex. I followed her into the tunnel, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. I had expected danger, yes, but not like this. I had imagined a clear line of action, an enemy to fight, a mission to accomplish. But this was more complex. I had no idea who these enemies were, only that they were ancient, shadowy forces that had been lurking in the background of humanity's history for far longer than I could comprehend. "Who are they?" I asked again, my voice hoarse from the tension building inside me. "What do they want?" The Nixery glanced over at me, her face serious. "They are an ancient order, one that spans across galaxies. We call them the Aegis. They are keepers of the old ways, bound to a philosophy that seeks to control the evolution of all intelligent species. They fear the potential for change, for upheaval. To them, humanity's awakening, your awakening, is a threat to their control. You must understand, John, this is not just a fight for survival. It is a battle for the future of all sentient beings. I clenched my fists, feeling a surge of anger rise within me. So they want to keep humanity trapped? Keep us ignorant and powerless forever? Yes, she said quietly, and worse. They want to keep the entire universe locked in the past, bound to outdated systems of control and stagnation. They believe that no species should evolve beyond its limitations, that change is chaos. I could feel the heat of my frustration building, a spark of defiance igniting in my chest. That's insane. How could anyone want that? Because they believe it is the only way to maintain order, she replied. The Aegis see themselves as protectors of what they believe is the natural order. To them, humanity's potential represents an uncontrollable force that could unravel the balance they have worked for millennia to maintain. I could feel the truth of her words resonating within me. These Aegis were more than just enemies, they were a system, an ideology, one that sought to stifle evolution, to freeze everything in time. And I had just become the embodiment of change, the very thing they feared most. A wave of determination surged through me. I had no choice. I couldn't let them succeed. Humanity couldn't be kept in the dark any longer. I had felt the future coursing through my veins, and I wasn't going to let anyone stop it. Not these shadowy forces, not anyone. How many of them are there? I asked, trying to focus. What kind of power do they have? The Nixery's expression hardened. The Aegis are vast in number, though not all are active at any given time. Their power lies in their ability to influence, to control. They have agents everywhere, among the most powerful governments, corporations, and organizations across the galaxy. They use subtlety, infiltration. Their strength is in their secrecy, in how they manipulate others from the shadows. But make no mistake, they are not invincible. I swallowed, trying to make sense of the gravity of the situation. These were not just enemies I could fight head-on. They were a network, a web of power, their influence spanning far beyond what I could imagine. And how do we stop them? I asked, my voice low but firm. She stopped walking, turning to face me. There was a strange, almost sorrowful look in her eyes. We don't stop them with force, not at first. You must understand that this is not just a war of weapons. It is a war of ideas. The Aegis will fight to keep humanity from ever realizing its potential. And you, John, are the symbol of that potential. The words hung in the air between us, heavy with meaning. So what now? Now we prepare, she said, her tone unwavering. We need to rally those who believe in this future, those who understand that humanity must evolve, must break free of its chains. We need to be strategic, not just in combat but in our alliances. The battle is not just for survival, it is for the very soul of humanity. I nodded slowly, absorbing the gravity of what she was saying. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about the future, about the very nature of human existence. This battle would shape everything: who we became as a species, how we would grow and evolve, and who would control that evolution. The Nixery placed a hand on my shoulder, her grip firm and reassuring. You have the power, John. But you must be ready. The Aegis will come for you first. And when they do, you must be prepared to face them. You are not just fighting for yourself anymore. You are fighting for all of humanity. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of her words settle in my chest. This wasn't just my battle. It was all of ours. The road ahead was uncertain and the challenges were immense, but I knew one thing for sure. I was ready. The hidden sanctum was eerily quiet, the soft hum of the power source the only sound that seemed to permeate the air. I had been sitting in a meditative state for hours, trying to center myself and focus on the abilities that had become a part of me, but it felt like I was barely scratching the surface. Every time I tried to tap into the full depth of my power, it slipped through my fingers like sand, eluding my control. It was as if the deeper I tried to go, the more my mind rebelled. A sharp knock on the door broke my concentration and I jerked upright, my heart racing. I had been so absorbed in my thoughts that I hadn't noticed anyone approaching. The Nixery entered, her usual calm demeanor now replaced with a grim intensity. She wasted no time with pleasantries. "They've made their move," she said, her voice steady but carrying an undercurrent of urgency. "The Aegis has initiated the first wave." I stood quickly, my pulse quickening. The moment had come. I had expected an attack eventually, but the reality of it hit hard. The battle was no longer theoretical. It was here, right now, and everything I had been training for, everything I had come to understand was about to be tested. "Where are they attacking?" I asked, my voice hoarse with the weight of the situation. My mind raced as I processed the news. I knew that whatever this first strike was, it would be only the beginning. The Aegis weren't going to stop after one move. If they succeeded now, it would set a precedent. They've targeted key sites around the world, military installations, political hubs, centers of communication. "It's all coordinated," the Nixery replied, her gaze intense. "They want to destabilize humanity before the change can take root. They know that if we can unite, if we can awaken others, we will be a force they cannot stop. This is only the first wave." I clenched my fists, feeling the familiar surge of anger and power coursing through my body. "What can we do?" "They'll come for you soon," she said, her voice low. "You must be ready to move. Your role in all of this goes beyond just defense. You are the catalyst. The world must see that change is possible, that there is another way forward. Your presence, your example, will rally those who believe in the future we've promised." The words felt like a heavy mantle settling over my shoulders. My responsibility had just become so much more real. I wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. I wasn't just fighting to stop a shadowy organization from holding humanity back. Now I had to be a symbol. I had to show the world that the change we sought was not only necessary but possible. "How do I do that?" I asked, my voice tight with both determination and fear. "How do I make them believe?" "You will show them," she said simply. "They will see the power within you, the potential you represent. There will be no denying it." My chest tightened with a mix of fear and anticipation. I had no choice now. There was no turning back. But what if I wasn't ready? What if I couldn't live up to this responsibility? "Then we need to act," I said, my voice firm. "We can't wait any longer. We need to take the fight to them." The Nixery nodded, but there was a flash of hesitation in her eyes. "Patience. The Aegis is calculating. If you act too soon, you may only give them what they want. They will seek to undermine you, to turn the world against you. The first step is to secure our position. We need allies, people who believe in this future. But we cannot act recklessly." I felt my frustration rise. I had been ready for action from the moment I had awakened to this power. But I had to trust her. She had been through this before. She knew how the Aegis operated, how they worked in the shadows. I had to be smart. I had to think beyond just rushing in. "How do we start?" I asked, trying to quell the storm of urgency inside me. The Nixery's eyes were steady as she looked at me. "We will start by gathering those who have already seen the truth. The leaders, the visionaries, the ones who understand that change is not only necessary but inevitable. We will strike where it matters, where we can begin to rally support, to show that humanity has the power to evolve, to break free of its chains." The path ahead seemed uncertain, but one thing was clear. We couldn't afford to waste time. The Aegis would not wait. They would press their advantage as soon as they saw an opportunity. We had to move quickly, and we had to move smart. The next few days passed in a blur of movement and preparation. We had begun reaching out to key individuals, politicians, scientists, leaders of various resistance movements who had long suspected the existence of the Aegis. They were a fractured, disjointed group, but they shared a common belief. The system as it was, the status quo, was broken. And if they could just wake up the rest of humanity to that truth, there would be no turning back. I had to meet with them in secret, hidden from the watchful eyes of the Aegis. It felt strange, almost surreal. One minute I was just a man, uncertain of my future, and now I was an emblem of change, a symbol of humanity's potential. I was meeting with powerful people who saw something in me that I couldn't yet fully comprehend. The meeting took place in a secluded location, a nondescript warehouse tucked away in the heart of a sprawling city. As I entered, the faces of those gathered around the table were a mix of curiosity, skepticism, and cautious hope. They didn't know me, not truly. They had heard the rumors, seen the signs, but now they were about to meet the man who was supposed to lead them into a new era. I stood at the head of the table, my heart pounding in my chest as I looked around at the faces of those who had once been strangers, but now seemed like allies. I was supposed to convince them that I was the key to their future. That the power I had unlocked wasn't just for me, it was for all of us. "I know what you're thinking," I began, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through me. "You're wondering if I can deliver on what's been promised. You're wondering if I'm truly the one who can lead humanity to the future we deserve. I'm here to tell you that I can, and I will. Together we can break free of the chains that have held us back for centuries." The room was silent, but I could feel the shift. The subtle energy that passed between us as the words I spoke began to resonate with the truth they had long known, deep down. They had all been waiting for someone to stand up, to lead them into a future that had been denied to them. "I don't have all the answers," I continued. "But I know this, we are stronger than we've ever been. We've been held back by fear, by control, by those who think they can shape our future for us. But that ends now. We are the change, and we are not going to wait any longer." A murmur of agreement spread around the table, and for the first time since I had arrived, I saw hope in their eyes. The Aegis might have made their move, but we were ready to fight back. The war was not just against the forces of control, it was a war for our future, for the right to shape our own destiny. As the meeting drew to a close, I felt a sense of resolve settle over me. This wasn't just about fighting. It was about awakening. It was about showing humanity that we could be more than we ever imagined. The first strike had been made, and now, it was our turn to respond. The days after the meeting blurred together in a haze of planning and tension. The world was teetering on the edge, and every step we took seemed to echo louder than the last. The Aegis had made their first strike, but it was clear that they hadn't anticipated the response. The small alliance of resistance groups and awakened leaders that had begun to form around me was growing stronger. Every new face that joined our cause added another layer of resolve, and with it, a greater sense of purpose. We worked in the shadows, communicating through secure channels, meeting in hidden locations, and spreading the message quietly, carefully. The world had to know that there was another way. But the Aegis was everywhere, watching, waiting for any sign of rebellion to crush. Every move we made was calculated, every word we spoke weighed. I sat in a dimly lit room, looking over maps of major cities and communication hubs, tracing potential weak points where we could strike back. The weight of leadership had begun to settle heavily on my shoulders. The resistance was looking to me for answers, for direction. But I was still learning, still understanding the true extent of the power I had inherited. The Nixery had warned me that mastering my abilities would take time, that rushing ahead without control could lead to disaster. Yet, every day that passed felt like time slipping away. I was becoming more impatient, more anxious to act. "John?" The Nixery's voice broke through my thoughts, drawing me out of the spiral of doubt. She stood at the doorway, her face as unreadable as always, but her eyes were sharp. "We have word from the front. The Aegis has begun consolidating their forces. They're preparing for something major." I rose to my feet, instinctively reaching for the data tablet that held our plans. "What are they planning? And where?" "The Aegis doesn't move like a typical military force," she replied, stepping closer. "They work in networks, in covert strikes. But there's a pattern to it, and the information we've gathered suggests they're targeting key infrastructure across the globe. If they can cripple the world's ability to communicate, to coordinate, they can create chaos. Chaos that they can control." A chill ran down my spine. The Aegis wasn't just trying to win, they were trying to break everything, to create an environment where resistance was impossible. It was a move I'd feared, and it was happening faster than we anticipated. "But we can stop them, right?" I asked, gripping the table. "We have allies now. We have people who can fight back." She nodded, but there was a wariness in her expression. "We have allies, yes. But they are not enough. The Aegis is too vast, their influence too widespread. The war cannot be won by force alone. We need to disrupt their operations in a way that forces them to reveal themselves, to expose their control. I nodded, feeling a sense of purpose rising within me. Then we do exactly that. We expose them. The Nixery raised an eyebrow, her expression unreadable. Expose them how? I thought for a moment, letting the pieces fall into place. The Aegis had been working in secrecy for centuries, weaving a web of power so intricate that even the most powerful governments were unaware of their influence. But there was one thing they had underestimated: the human need for connection, for truth. We can't just attack their physical assets, I said slowly. We need to expose their control, broadcast it to the world. The Aegis is counting on humanity being unaware, being unable to see the strings they pull. If we can expose their manipulation, if we can show the world what they've been doing, then we can rally more people to our cause. We can force them out of the shadows. The Nixery's eyes gleamed with a quiet understanding. And how do you propose we do that? I met her gaze, my mind racing. We need to hack into their networks, expose their most critical secrets. We need to broadcast the truth on every channel to every corner of the world. They rely on secrecy. Without it, they are nothing. She was silent for a long moment, studying me. It will be dangerous. The Aegis will know the moment their systems are breached. You will be marked? I didn't hesitate. I'm already marked. We don't have time to play it safe anymore. We strike now, before they have a chance to consolidate their power. The Nixery's face softened, and for a brief moment, I saw a glimmer of something, pride maybe, or acceptance. Then we strike together. The plan was simple, but nothing about it was easy. We had to infiltrate their most secure systems and broadcast their secrets to the world. To do that, we needed access to their central hub, an advanced data facility located in a heavily fortified compound on a remote island. It was a fortress, everything about it screamed impenetrable. But we had the element of surprise on our side, and I had a few tricks up my sleeve. I wasn't going in alone. The Nixery had arranged for a small elite team of resistance fighters, hackers, infiltrators, and strategists, who had been preparing for this moment. Together we would get inside, extract the information we needed, and expose the Aegis for what they truly were. The journey to the island was tense. The air was thick with anticipation, and every minute felt like a countdown. As the small transport vessel cut through the stormy seas, I felt the weight of what we were about to do. We weren't just taking a risk, we were betting everything on this strike. If we failed, the Aegis would tighten their grip on the world, and any hope of awakening humanity would be crushed before it had even begun. As we neared the island, the team went silent. Every one of us knew the stakes. I could feel the power stirring within me, an energy that had become both a blessing and a curse. I had to be careful. The last thing I needed was to let my emotions take over. The Aegis would be watching. They would be prepared for anything. If we didn't move quickly, they would shut us down before we even had a chance. We disembarked under the cover of darkness, slipping into the dense forest that surrounded the compound. The air was heavy with the smell of salt and wet earth, and the sound of distant waves crashing against the rocks echoed in the night. We moved quickly, silently, using every piece of intel we had gathered over the past weeks to avoid the patrolling guards. Once we reached the compound's perimeter, we set to work. The hackers went to work on their systems, bypassing the security measures with expertise. I couldn't help but feel a twinge of doubt. It seemed too easy, too quiet. But we had no choice. We couldn't afford to hesitate. The doors to the main building slid open with a hiss, and we slipped inside. The sound of our footsteps was muffled by the hum of the facility's power. We were in. And now the real test would begin. The end. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more exciting HFY stories. Your support means the world to us. And make sure to tap the bell icon so you never miss an update. Stay tuned for our next adventure, and until then, keep exploring the stars. See you in the next video.